my name is Maggie. I have an infertility diagnosis due to premature ovarian failure. My husband and I are using donor egg IVF in order to conceive a child. Today, I want to give an update on that process. We are at the point where we're doing genetic carrier screening for both the donor and my husband. So we got those test results back. So I want to go over what the genetic carrier screening is, why we're doing that, what we found out, and what our next steps are. So the genetic carrier screening that we're using is from a company called SEMA4. They do a test for 283 genetic conditions, and the testing is done through a saliva sample and a blood sample. It takes about 2 weeks for them to get those results back, and after they do the results, then a genetic counselor calls to go over what they found. Why we're doing this is because the clinic requires it, number one. So the clinic will not move forward with a match of parent and donor if both the parent and the donor are a carrier for the same genetic condition. They don't want to do that because if both are carriers, then that's a 25% highly likely scenario that the offspring, the child, would be affected by the genetic condition. So we did have an option to wait for the donor's screening to come back and see if she was a carrier for anything before moving forward with my husband's screening. So we wouldn't have needed to do both if she was not a carrier for anything. The people at the clinic kind of told me it happens sometimes that someone's not a carrier for anything, but it is 283 things that they're testing for, so it's somewhat likely that they'd be a carrier for something. So we decided to just go ahead and have my husband do the testing concurrently with the donor, so we would get the results back around the same time. And that's just a little bit shorter of a wait because we don't have to wait 2 weeks for her results to get back and then find out she's a carrier for something and then wait another 2 weeks for his results to get back. So then we could just go over all this information at one time with the genetic counselor. So that's what we decided to do. We did find out that the donor and my husband were both carriers for something. I won't go over what they're a carrier for, but between them, there's carriers for 3 different genetic conditions. So, and so we're glad to do that. And I think there's a possibility that we would have done the screening for my husband anyway, just for the information to find out what's going on his side. So we did find out about what they're carriers for. So the genetic counselor went over what the conditions are and kind of how it affects the person. Some of the things that they're testing for, it's not deadly. So like some of the stuff is treatable, manageable. There's varying degrees. So that's important for us to consider. And then also it's important for the genetic counselor to go over what the likelihood of us having what they call an affected offspring. So I'll go over the numbers that they gave me for each of the 3 conditions. So the first number is going to be the likelihood that the person who did not test as a carrier actually is a carrier. There is a margin of error in the test, so the company has to account for that, as do we. So they can tell you what the likelihood is that someone is a carrier based on their heritage, so to speak. So for example, someone of African descent is more likely to be a carrier for sickle cell anemia. And sometimes just beyond ethnicity, we have statistics for someone, you know, an example, someone of Jewish descent is more likely to have, to be a carrier for Tay-Sachs disease. So something like that, that's what they'll use to kind of say what the likelihood is that someone's a carrier. So for the first condition that the donor or my husband is a carrier of is a 1 in 230 chance that the other is a carrier. So that would give the chance of having an effective offspring. So it's 25% chance if both are carriers. But in this case, if the other is actually a carrier but just tested a false negative, then the chance is 1 in 920 of having an affected offspring. The next condition, it's a 1 in 500 chance that the other is a carrier. That would bring the affected offspring to 1 in 2,000. The last condition that we had a carrier for is 1 in 1,700. So carrier or affected offspring chance is down to 1 in 600 or 6,800. So those are kind of the numbers we had to work with. It's kind of scary to hear the numbers, just to hear that there is a chance, but also like those numbers it's pretty unlikely. And part of being a parent is, or trying to become a parent is just taking a leap of faith, because really we don't know what's going to happen. It's unreasonable to have an expectation that anyone could tell us that there's no chance of anything at all being wrong with the baby, the pregnancy, anything. Like, it's just you have to take it as it comes and have some faith. So that's what we decided. We are going to go ahead and move forward with this donor, and we are super excited. This isn't the first donor that we've picked, but this is the farthest we've gotten in the egg donor screening. So we are getting closer to actually being able to move forward with this. So what we're waiting on right now is the donor's COVID testing to come back, and then we'll be able to move on to the legal aspect of the egg donation. So I'm excited to give this update and to explain a bit more about our experience with the genetic carrier testing. I'd love it if you reached out with your experience, questions, anything like that. Please like, comment, subscribe. Really appreciate you following along with this.